Hi. Okay, hi, this is Elliot Fishman, and we're now live. It's May 30th. Hope you survived Memorial Day weekend. I barely survived because after I went to California to do my talk and my interview, I came home and I had to work Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And like all of you, I'm sure when you're working, um, the weekends and holidays are disasters. Massive amount of work. Far too much work for any one person to do. Yet we all do it. So I did survive, and of course I worked the rest of the week, which is only Thursday. So it seems like, oh my God, what a week. Anyway, we're back. Life goes on. Um, some of you who are on this talk probably will be on this talk were on the lecture. So last week, East Coast time, 6:30 to 8 p.m. last Thursday, 23rd of February. I'm sorry, 23rd of May. Um, I, with Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, yes, that Jensen Huang, interviewed Ed Catmull, yes, that Ed Catmull, Ed, the founder of Pixar and ran Pixar for 33 years. Stepped down a few years ago, doing all sorts of great things. Ed Catmull, really one of the greatest legends in computer graphics. And we were at NVIDIA headquarters, and I can't share any pictures with you of the headquarters, but you can look online, so it's easy. It's called Voyager. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, and it's not a conference center. It's one of their buildings that's used for meetings and all sorts of things. And when they have their quarterly reports, they kind of build up the equivalent of what I would call a coliseum that holds a couple thousand people. And the day before I got there, they reported their incredible earnings. And that morning, Jensen spoke to the team, and that afternoon we spoke. So it was incredible speaking in front of a couple thousand people. And of course, we were also live on the media, so people back home could see it here and could watch it on Zoom, which a number of people did. Hopefully we will I'll get a copy of that, and we'll have to see if we'll be able to post it. It was 90 minutes long. It was Jensen and I asking Ed questions. I won't go through all the questions because that would take 90 minutes, but a lot of the things we focused on, and it was not a meeting about AI in general, which you might expect, right? That the world's number one AI company and the world's number one company, period. But it was about leadership. It was about environment and culture and how you do things. And that's what I will talk about a little bit today and what I remember most. And so we started, the three of us were sitting on stage. And as I expected, I may have said this before, that I knew that since I had the first question, I would probably be able to start at least where I wanted to start, and then things would basically take the course of whatever the course it went, which was terrific. And in fact, you're so caught up in the moment being on stage, looking at all the people listening, that I really don't remember everything that was said. And I would love to watch it again to really be able to think. But and the reason I know it, Stephanie sent me a 7-minute, which was very early in the talk, little YouTube video, and listening to that, I realized what we were doing. And Lydiana, I know, was there, and I don't know if John was at the talk, but Lydiana was at the talk. And what they spoke about was leadership, and what Ed Catmull said was, he was the head of Pixar. He was the leader of the Lucasfilms experiment, all the work they did there. And of course, he was head at New York Institute of Technology. So those were the places he was head. And he always spoke about how he learned leadership skills, or how to lead, when he was at the University of Utah. Not that he was trained to lead, but he liked the environment. That you got good people together. You didn't need someone saying, you do this, you do this, you do that. But it was kind of natural, because you created an environment where people will excel, where people will prosper. And that's what he took with him. And so he took that to Lucasfilms, and he took it to Pixar. And, as he said, you're not always going to get it right. You're not always going to be perfect. And it's never as simple as you would think it would be. And also, obviously, as you go from 20 people or a small lab to hundreds or thousands of people, it's even more of a challenge as you spread out and as you're different places and you get bigger and bigger. It's a challenge. And Jensen spoke about that also. He's in many countries. They have 30,000 employees. How do you make certain that that environment you want? Well, it's how you behave. Ed made it very clear that the problem with a lot of companies, every company has a CEO, right? Every hospital has a president. Every medical school has a dean. So whatever you want to call those people. He said people who become dean or president or CEO, and he focused on CEOs, whose reason to become CEO is because they want to be in charge. They want to be the number one. They want to get the biggest salary, the biggest office, the biggest whatever. He goes, they most of the time will fail because they don't get it. The people who are successful are the people who want to be CEO because they want to be able to lead and help other people succeed. So it's this idea of helping others succeed and not worrying about yourself. So the CEOs like Jensen, like Ed, who are there to make everyone do their best, be excellent, they succeed and those companies do thrive. When the CEO becomes about them, male or female, it doesn't really work. So that's going to be a very, very important point. And it's the CEO who also sets up the atmosphere. Many companies, many institutions, you've seen it this past spring. Best examples, institutions of higher learning or whatever they are, Penn, MIT, Berkeley, many institutions, Columbia. What you saw was a lack of leadership, or if you want to say there was leadership, it was poor leadership. They did not know what they were doing. They did not earn to be president of that institution, and everything went downhill. When you have a culture and you have an environment, then you can do things that are great. When you have no culture, or your culture is sour, when you have a hostile environment, when you have a toxic environment, you're going to fail. Yes, you can force people to do what you want them to do, perhaps, but that doesn't last long, right? Great companies, great institutions aren't great because you're forcing people to do something. Great companies, or the greatest of companies, are successful because leadership helps everyone bring out the best. You talk about this with sports, you look at teams. When you watch a basketball team is 12 players, baseball is I think 30, football is 50. Now, everybody on those teams are talented. Yes, some are more talented than others, but it's the leadership that takes that talent and puts it together, adds or subtracts to make that talent very successful. You can have the same talent with the wrong coach and you're not going to do well. You might do okay, but you're not going to make it to the NBA finals and you're not going to make it to the championship. And you see, that's why often you will see a team will change a coach and they go from being okay to being the champion, because players are the same. Maybe they're a year older, but they're the same. But it's who manages to bring out the best in those players, getting them to work together, getting them to understand they're working for the common good, and only if they all work together are they going to win the NBA championship or the Major League Baseball championship, or they're going to win the Super Bowl. You saw in Kansas City, which is, okay, it's Kansas City. They won a number of Super Bowls, I think 3 of the last 4. Well, why? You have great players, there's no doubt about it. But you have great coaching, and the coaching helps bring everybody together. And it's leadership. There's a reason the term is leadership, but in this time and this era, there's a lack of leadership across the country, across the world. across companies and across academic and non-academic institutions. You have to listen to some talks and really try to understand what makes some companies work well. I should probably maybe put a set of links up, but a number of talks you could listen to, and I can put some of them together. There was a couple with Ed Catmull. If you go to YouTube and you type in Ed Catmull, you're going to see interviews he's given over the past 15 years. You type in Jensen Huang, you're going to see interviews that go back 20 years or 15 years. But there was a really good interview at Stanford a few weeks ago. The head of Stripe, Patrick Collison, interviewed him maybe about 3 weeks ago, one-on-one for about an hour or so. And, Jensen spoke about the fact that, he's from humble beginnings. He was a toilet cleaner. Then he was a dishwasher, not at the same time. He washed dishes. Then he moved up to become a busboy. Then he moved up to become a waiter. And as he likes to say, he was the best toilet cleaner there is. He was the best busboy. He was the best dishwasher. He was the best waiter. And those were at Denny's. It wasn't like some fancy New York restaurant. His point was he worked very hard. He worked hard to be the best and be successful. And as CEO, he works hard, like Ed Catmull worked hard, to be the best of themselves and to have them shine their light on other people so that everybody is producing at their best. When you look back, and we spoke a bit about Steve Jobs, and the point about Steve, Ed made very clearly that Steve, at one point, you've read about him, he was problematic. But then the second coming of Steve Jobs, he was incredible. He was empathetic. He showed all the right leadership skills. And people who worked with him always stayed with him. So it doesn't need to be, you don't need to be head of NVIDIA or head of Pixar or head of Apple to be a leader and do great. But you got to be thinking about it. It's not about you. It's about everybody else. And there are many more things we spoke about in that talk, and I will probably come back to them. We surely will try to write some articles for JACR. I see John B. Aquino. John is saying the interview was great, and Lydiana said it was great as well. And I know everybody, maybe they're trying to make me feel better, but everyone who saw it thought it was great, not because I said a whole lot, but because of what Ed did. Again, the focus was on Ed, and Jensen and I were speaking and interviewing Ed. So anyway, that's it for today. And think about that. But I recommend go online, go to YouTube. It's for free. Do Catmull or do Jensen Huang. You'll find a bunch of talks. Look at some old ones. It's amazing how they predicted the future. Look at some new ones. You can see what they're thinking now going forward. And with that, I wish everybody a great day.